Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with Salvation, Season 2, Episode 2, Review. Alright, so going into this episode, I was a little bit disappointed with the pilot, or not the pilot, but the premiere for Season 2 last week. And, so I have my review up on the channel if you want to go check that out, of course. Maybe some of you already have, and now you're at Episode 2, review on the channel. But yeah, so I just thought I was a little bit disappointed with that one. It kind of didn't really meet my expectations. It was kind of a little bit sloppy, I thought, a little bit lazy writing sometimes throughout it. But this episode, I mean, this really just redeemed, the kind of the reputation or the show, for me at least. I really liked this episode. I felt like it answered a lot of things, but it also brought up a lot of new things that are very, very intriguing, like going forward. Some great subplots here, some great storylines going forward. I really like the Grace and Darius interaction this week. I was just waiting for this to happen because we all know that it had to happen right in that scene where they're in the jet, right, together, and they're talking. Of course, we didn't quite get out what we wanted, right? But it was still a good kind of confrontation between the two, and that's something that I thought that we needed this week. So I'm gonna go over a quick recap here for this episode. And I mean, by all means, I mean, it's not my favorite episode of the series, but I just think it was a lot better than last week's episode. I've checked on like IMDb and I think it was TV Line or something like that. Someone on there was saying how the episode 1 of season 2, people like that a lot better, and then on IMDb the ratings are a lot higher for that one, which I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Like I don't understand that though. I thought this episode was I would say worlds better. Like I really thought this was a lot better. But anyways, so yeah, quick recap. Then I'll get to my rating, favorite character, and some more overall thoughts towards the end of the review. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I was just gonna say that some people, have mentioned to me in the past about the recap and then the review. So the recap is what takes up most of the time in these reviews, right, for these shows. And so if you're interested in, kind of just the review portion of my rating, favorite character, and stuff like that, you can kind of skip to kind of like the back third of the review, I would say. And then usually you can see that. I'll try to put the the timestamp in the description, so you guys, if you want to do that, you can see that. I think at least that the recaps are really helpful, and I think a lot of people want to see those as well, right? So it is what it is. So we start off the episode here this week with Grace flipping through channels on the TV, showing, fires and huge mobs of people freaking out. They said they're looting stores, of course, like setting things on fire, breaking into places, the government buildings and stuff like that. So this is what I expected to see. And I love how they, like, right at the beginning of this episode, they addressed this. And I thought it was a huge issue last episode because basically the magnitude of what we see is literally a couple people on the street backed up, and then this one guy pulls a gun on one of the police officers, right? But he never shot him or anything like that, but he was holding a gun on him. And so that's about as far as we saw, basically the planet taking it, right? After hearing the news about a Russian missile coming towards them and an asteroid coming towards them, that's all that happened. That's all they reacted like, right? And so I just thought that was very unrealistic. So this was really good to see this, when she's just on the TV and, total chaos is ensuing. And that's exactly what I would expect if this happened in real life. Like, this would be insane, especially with this news breaking because of Resist last episode. So good on them. Good on the show for kind of addressing this and showing what would really happen instead of, kind of sugarcoating it a little bit, right? So really good there. Not a very meaningful scene for the actual episode story, but I thought it was definitely worth mentioning after I kind of jabbed at them a little bit last episode and saying that they didn't do a good job. Well, they did a good job in this one. Really, really good job, actually. So then we see that Harris enlists Grace's father to track down Bennett and bring him in alive. So, of course, we see more of that later in the episode, right? When they actually go and try to get Bennett. from this base. So they find, that he's camped out in this military base. So yeah, he enlists Gray's father because he doesn't know who he can trust anymore, right? Because Bennett may have, them under wraps, right? He may, be blackmailing them to help him or something like that, right? So he's not sure who to trust, so he goes to Grace's father. And I still don't know his name. I feel like we've learned it before in season 1, but I totally forget it. So I'm just going to refer to him as Grace's father today because, yeah, I just really don't remember what his name is. And I was too lazy to kind of search it up. But anyways, not that big to the story anyways. So then we see that Resist tells the people who they have chosen in this room. And so last episode, I thought it was 30 people. They had like 30 of the greatest minds or something like that. And then we see this room where they're all in front of the computers. It's kind of like a circle kind of desk room there. And there's only like 14 people there, I think. I think I counted 15 around the table. So maybe they like split them up, I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyways, Croft is back. I really like this part where Liam sees Croft's name tag, positioned beside his, and he quickly moves Croft's name tag and puts over someone else's name tag so he doesn't have to sit beside Croft. I just thought that was kind of funny, and very Liam-like, something that he would totally do. So that was nice. And so then Resist tells them that their goal is to find a way to deflect the asteroid, right? Basically, to save the world and make sure that this asteroid doesn't hit. But, like, wasn't that the whole plot of Season 1? Like, really? Season 2, we are back to the exact same plot of Season 1. That lasted for, I would say about 11 episodes. But 11 episodes we spent on this in Season 1. And now, Season 2, we're back with Episode 2, and we're exactly right where we started with Season 1. What? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm taking this too far. Maybe I'm being a little, unreasonable. I'm not sure. But I just, like, really, to me, it seems like the exact same plot as Season 1. For Season 2, and that's what they're like. They're trying to make it different, of course, with Resist and the group of scientists, right? Before it was only Croft and Liam, and they were trying to make this EM drive. Darius helped, of course, too. So, and then at times it was Darius and Liam. So it was never like a group of the greatest minds or something like that. But even so, like it was the exact same kind of plot, the same sort of storyline, the same goal in Season 1. So I'm a little bit frustrated with that, seeing the exact same plot, but they also introduced some really great subplots in this episode, so I really like that, right? So they kind of added these other things in that are different from Season 1, of course. Like Season 1, one of the main subplots was that girl from, what was that called? That news outlet. What was it called? It's on the tip of my tongue. But anyways, the news outlet, right? Amanda, the girl from that news outlet, and I think she died. Did she die? I don't know. I was expecting to see her by now, but we haven't. So again, I'm not like, I don't remember everything for Season 1, so maybe she did die and I just forgot. But yeah, so that was like the main subplot in Season 1, and now we got a few more, so that's good. So then Darius has a plan to deflect the asteroid himself using some sort of magnetic gun to fire at the asteroid. Seems ridiculous, but it actually, kind of makes sense, right? You kind of have to be ridiculous to in order to solve this this asteroid kind of hurling towards Earth, right? Because nothing else really works, right? So he wants to enlist the group called Risk. I think at one point in the episode, they did say what it stood for. I know the S is for science. It's RISC, not K. So anyways, but I forgot exactly what it stands for. But anyways, they're based in Iceland, at least. And of course, they're kind of like what Resist just made, right? The greatest science minds in the world are basically all together in one organization, and it's called Risk, right? So it's kind of the same idea. Only Darius wants their help with executing his idea, right? Because Resist is on a kind of a different, idea path right now. So he asks for a stealth jet to go there to remain undetected from Resist, and Mackenzie agrees, and Grace is asked to go with Darius to Iceland to hopefully enlist the help of this Risk organization. So, very interesting, right? Again, we knew we had to have that Grace and Darius moment, and that's exactly what happens on the way to Iceland. So that was very good. That was a very nice kind of thing that they threw in there that Grace had to go with them. And again, even Mackenzie brings this up. She says, like, I hope you guys have the same success as you did with our friends from Russia, right? And that's exactly what happened in season 1. I thought that episode where they went to Russia was one of the best episodes of the series so far. So very, very good job in the writers kind of taking us back to that kind of, moment there. So then Harris and Grace's father are leading a team to go after Bennett, who is camped at this military base, right? So they find the base, they identify what base he's in, or what base they most likely think he is in, and so they put together a team, and they're on their way there. But on his way there, Harris is stopped by Detective Carter, and he's investigating the disappearance of Claire Rayburn. So this storyline is not going away, and I really, really like this new kind of subplot with Detective Carter. And again, at the end of the episode, we find out that he's tied, like, it's kind of a personal thing for him rather than a professional thing, because he's her brother. But anyways, I'll touch on that a little bit later too. But we get that reveal at the end of the episode, which I thought was crazy, but very, very cool. So he's investigating the disappearance of Claire Rayburn, and he says, mind if I ask you a few questions, right? So Harris, of course, is nervous, right, because he was involved in it. He knows what happened. Obviously, Grace shot her, and she's dead, but people still think that she's missing, right? Nobody knows that she's dead for sure, because Grace's dad cleaned up the apartment, even though she was never in the apartment. She got killed in the parking garage, I think. But anyway, so he cleaned it up. The body is gone, so nothing can really trace back to Harris and Grace. But this Detective Carter guy is like, where's my sister, right? And he's trying to find out answers. So Harris tells him that he has other things to do, and he asked him to get out of the car. It wasn't a very long conversation, although Carter showed him the pictures that he found on Claire's phone of him, with his shirt off and stuff like that. So obviously he knows that Harris and her were involved, right? And Harris has to admit that to him as well. So that was kind of interesting. And then Carter, of course, he does get out of the car eventually, right? And Harris kind of plays rank here, right? Because he's like, well, you're kind of a lowly police officer, detective with the Washington PD, and I'm the secretary of, or what is he? No, he's what is he? I don't know, but he's I forget his exact role, but obviously he's like third or fourth in to the president, right? Like he's a huge presence in the government, and so he kind of plays rank. He's like, get out of the car, we're gonna have some problems, right? So and then I love it, and when he drives away, Carter just stands there and stares at him, and we get the impression like he's not going away anytime soon, right? He's here, and he's gonna get to the bottom of this. So really, really like that plot there. And then, of course, like I said, we see him later in the episode as well. So obviously, Grace and Darius arrive in Iceland, and they are suddenly confronted by a bunch of men with machine guns pointed straight at them. And it's like, what happened? Like, because Grace brings up that they're from the United States, and all of a sudden hell breaks loose at this, I guess it's like the Risk building, or the Risk, kind of headquarters, right? So then the woman comes out and says they have to leave immediately, right? Or else they're going to get shot. So, like, this gets pretty, it escalates pretty fast here. So then Darius persuades her and tells her if she kills them, she's going to be responsible for the death of 7 billion people, because he has an idea that can save, humanity, pretty much, right? That can save Earth from this asteroid. Which, again, in the past, they mentioned in the show, in season 1 especially, that this asteroid was only going to hit a part of the Earth, and it was only going to kill about 1 billion, right? Or, like, it would only affect 1 billion of the Earth. Now, again, I mean, if it hits the United States, let's say it hits New York or something, well, the world economy is probably going to fall apart, right? Like, obviously. But, physically, are the people on the other side of the Earth going to be actually affected by it? Definitely an argument to be had. I mean, you could argue that. But, I mean, if we're being, totally realistic right now, I don't think 7 billion people are going to be dying from this asteroid colliding with Earth, right? Because, obviously, it's not the size of Earth. So like it's not gonna just wipe out the whole planet, right? So it's definitely it's gonna affect mainly one part, and it's obviously gonna affect that part massively, right? But anyway, so he persuades her, and she lets them. She kind of like lowers the guns, right? And so they're able to get in to the headquarters there. So then Croft offers Liam some vodka, and they sit down to talk. This is just an awkward scene, but I liked it. I thought it was, something that kind of needed to happen, right? We see a scene a little bit earlier in the episode where Liam is kind of hesitant to tell Croft and the others and this team that they've split into about his knowledge, right? He knows why the EM drive didn't work, and Croft tries to get the answer out of him. He's like, no, I have no idea, right? He kind of like plays dumb. And Croft's kind of frustrated right now, right? So he sits down with them. I still don't trust Croft at all, by the way. I still think that he's going to betray Liam again. But for right now, he's kind of an okay guy. He's decent, I guess. So Croft wants to know what went wrong with the EM drive, right? And he says, you're not just hurting me, but you're hurting the planet if you don't tell us what happened, right? With this knowledge, we can hopefully develop, a way of stopping this asteroid, right? But without it, we don't stand a chance, is basically what he's saying. I just felt like it was kind of an abrupt ending to the scene, though, because I really would have liked them to kind of have more dialogue and see the scene play out fully with Croft and Liam talking, maybe about the past and stuff, too. But it only ended up being, a few seconds, and then Croft just kind of gets up and walks away. So I would have liked to see it a little bit longer, but still a pretty good scene and something that I, really wanted to see, in this episode. So then we see, or I guess we get introduced to Rosetta earlier. She's the woman who kind of comes out with all the guys pointed at Darius and Grace with the guns, right? She, kind of calls them off. But I guess she's the head of Risk, or at least she's kind of like, I wouldn't say, because I don't actually think she's part of the committee, to be honest, but she's like kind of like a person who calls votes together, kind of like an organizer, I think, right? And Darius and her have a past, right? So they know each other and they're kind of friends. So anyway, she calls a meeting for Darius, right, to speak to the members and at least, give an opportunity to Darius to hopefully get their help, right? So Darius speaks to the members. He tells them about his plan, right? He goes over a little bit more of the details, about it instead of, just saying it's a magnetic gun, right? Like, he goes into it, of course, and they immediately turn him down for various reasons, right? And most of the reasons have nothing to do with his actual idea, right? One being that the majority of countries don't think too fondly of the United States right now, right? With the whole Russia and U.S. missile crisis and all this stuff. So, and a lot of these people on the committee are not, or actually I don't think any of them are American. So obviously, we know, I think that most of them, he said, were European. So, we know that they're not too fond of the U.S. right now. There's obviously a big risk in helping Darius whatever, good pun, but anyways, there's a lot of risk in helping Darius because of Resist, right? Resist is threatening everybody that they're going to drop these nukes if, people don't listen to them and just do what they say. So obviously the committee, again, I really don't think it has to do with this plan, but they're they're just already gonna, turning it down and just kind of putting it in the ground, right? So Darius decides to fight back, right? And he tells them that Resist is a terrorist group, right? They should not be able to control people like this, right? They're not someone who's going to help us. It's terrorism, what they're doing right now. And I think that kind of gets through to them because I don't think they've kind of been told that before. So this kind of helps. And then he says, the only way to stop it is science. And then he says, I ask you this, if not us, then who? And that, I really agree with that. I mean, that's definitely, a very true statement, right? Maybe the people at Resist can kind of develop an idea, but do you really want the idea that's gonna save the world in the hands of Resist? Or would you rather have it in the hands of Darius? Like, you got to ask yourself that question too, right? Like, if Resist actually gets the plan, what are they going to do with it, right? And then once they take out the asteroid, what are you going to do with Resist? Like, is Resist just going to take over the government, in the United States? Or, like, what's going to happen, right? So there's a lot of, aftermath that could come of this as well if you give Resist the idea and stuff like that. So the members start applauding Darius, right? They're kind of accepting his idea now. They're on board after this kind of, inspiring speech, right? That he tells them, if not us, then who, right? And then suddenly everyone's clapping. Darius kind of breathes a sigh of relief that he's kind of gotten through to these people. And suddenly the man who spoke before against him rises, pulls out a gun, and shoots Darius multiple times. It looks like in the torso, and Darius just gets knocked down, and it's like, what? Like, what is happening right now? Like, Darius just got shot, and I'm thinking, like, right away, right when I see this scene, I'm like, oh my god, like, really? Like, Darius got shot. I didn't think that he was gonna die or anything like that, but I thought that he was, like, gonna be in the hospital now for a bit or something like that, right? I thought it was gonna be a big deal, but the next scene, we figure out that he's actually, he's okay, right? But Grace is very emotional in this next little scene here, where kind of, well, not next scene because it's split up by a commercial, but it's the same scene, right? It's just continued, where Grace is very emotional, and it really shows how she truly feels about Darius in this moment. She begins crying and stuff like that, right? Because at this point, like, she thinks that he might be dead, right? Like, she doesn't know. So obviously, she begins crying, and then I really feel like this scene was something for Darius also to recognize, because earlier in the episode he saw her with Harris, so maybe he's thinking that she's back with Harris again or something like that, right? So this kind of firms up to him exactly how she feels for him, especially because she gets so emotional and starts crying because she thought he was dead, right? So it turns out that he just had a bulletproof shirt on, and that he will survive, right? He'll be in a bit of pain, right, from, I think it was like 3 bullets going into his chest, but he will survive, of course. The bullets did not, get in or whatever like that, right to his skin. So he will be fine, but obviously that would still hurt quite a lot. But anyways, of course, right, I mean, they're not going to kill Darius. Episode 2 of Season 2, basically like the main character in the show right now, they're not going to kill him off. So you knew that he wasn't going to die, but, just turned out how, right? How is he okay? So just a little scare. And then Darius, I love this. He gets up and he says, "Now, where was I before I got so rudely interrupted?" I love that. That's just a totally Darius thing to do. Really awesome. So they get the 2/3 votes that they needed in the end, and they haul that guy off with the gun. Like, what happens to that guy? Like, seriously, like, what happens to that guy? Like, he just gets up and shoots the vice president. Like, really? Like, I mean, that guy's got to go to jail for a long time, in my opinion. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, they just kind of haul him off. Like, what? Like, that guy, just shot the vice president, right? Like, I thought they'd make a little bit more of a big deal, maybe even shoot him. Like, why didn't the security detail shoot him after he just shot Darius? Like, anyways, they didn't make that big of a deal out of it. Like, especially if Darius dies, and they're just, like, hauling the guy off, right? Like, a few little, things here, it's like, is that really how it would be? But anyways, so then Grace says, "Looks like we were able to achieve Détente." I think that's how you pronounce it, Détente, after all. And that's the name of the episode, of course. So, nice little, like, key in there. And then Rosetta says there is a problem. So kind of breaking up that euphoric moment. And that's kind of the theme of this episode. We had some really, upbeat, euphoric moments. And then just as soon as they kind of form, they're kind of axed down by something else that happens. So then we see the team move in on Bennett's base, right? The men get inside, call Grace's father to see it, right? They say something is here, you gotta see this. So he comes in, and they see this American flag with cameras set up around it, and he says that they are too late. And then we see exactly what they are talking about when we see it on TV in Iceland, where Grace and Darius are. So Grace and Darius then watch the feed on television of Bennett lying to Americans about Mackenzie. So he had this whole plan, right? And he made this video at the base. And of course, Grace's father and Harris are too late. So he obviously just filmed this before they broke into the base and got there, right? So Bennett says and this is like broadcasted to the world, right? And he says, "I am still the president of the United States of America, and I am taking back the White House," right? And I don't know, like, is he actually still the president of the United States? I thought they kind of cleaned that up, I guess, but maybe not. Maybe he actually still is the president, which would be crazy, right? Like, that means he's going to be back and he's going to claim the White House, right? So, like, no one can really, like, legally stop him from doing that, right? Like, it's his office. But anyways, so this is obviously a huge deal for everyone, right? So Rosetta tells Darius that the deal is now off the table with the news of Bennett, because the Risk team does not want to deal with Bennett being behind the government, because they don't know who, they don't know that they can trust him, right? So they take the deal off the table. It's done. right? So they're not going to work with him in, now because of Bennett. So basically, Darius has a great moment here. He's able to get the votes that he needs, and then Bennett goes on, and all of a sudden everything falls apart. So just kind of a sad kind of turn of events for Darius. But then he offers a new plan to Rosetta to help him convert this plant in Virginia, and he says like she is probably the smartest person he knows or something like that, and so she should be able, with his help, to be able to convert this thing in Virginia. In order to build this gun or this magnetic kind of force to fire at the asteroid, right? And she says it's not going to be easy, but nothing comes from nothing. And of course, she said that in the scene in the beginning of the episode, and she agrees to help him. So very interesting there. Again, they go through the whole episode here. We go through all of this. And then at the end of the episode, Risk just says, nope, deal's off the table. But we get Rosetta, who's introduced as part of this as well, to help with the plan. So kind of, we get a little bit of both, right? It's kind of, it's kind of meaningful, but kind of not at the same time. But anyways, so very interesting end there. And so we'll have to see Rosetta. I liked her in this episode. She seemed a pretty reasonable character. And we'll have to see her going forward, how big of a part she plays in the rest of the season, right? Helping Darius. So then Liam finally tells the group about the iron core of the asteroid. So this was kind of a big deal for him. He talks with that girl who worked or was a former TANS employee of Darius. She'd actually developed tests, and she's, kind of in his group in that resist kind of thing that they formed. So she kind of also inspires him, but Croft also, I would say, inspires him as well. So he finally tells them, he comes clean, and he says the asteroid is an iron core, which we didn't account for originally, and that's why the EM drive failed, which of course drastically changes everybody's plans, right? So none of the plans that were just offered are going to do anything because of the iron core. So really, I kind of support Liam in this, and I kind of don't. Because, again, do we want to give the actual idea or the plan to save the world to resist, right? Or should we just kind of kill time and Liam not tell anyone about the iron core and have an idea fail again and hopefully wait for Darius to be able to do something, right? Let Darius work on his plan. So you kind of can see it both ways here, but Liam did help out the group, and at least, hopefully they can find, some sort of a plan to save the world now together. But again, do you want that idea in Resist's hands? It's a good question to ask, really, interesting. So then we see Detective Carter drops by on Grace as she gets home, and Carter tells her that Claire is his sister. So that was a huge reveal. Again, I said this in the beginning of the recap, so I kind of got ahead of myself here, but damn, that was a big reveal in the episode, and that makes this personal, right? It's not just professional anymore. He's not just looking for a missing person. He's looking for his missing sister, which is huge. And you see Grace, her face, right away as he says it, she just, she just can't handle it. I mean, she kind of freaks out, right? She's like, his sister is Claire, the one I just shot, right? Huge deal here. I really, really love this subplot with Detective Carter, and that reveal that Claire's his sister, that just makes it all the better. So I really like this, and I'm really looking forward to this storyline going forward. How far are Grace and Eris willing to go to cover this up, right? Are they even going to go as far as taking out Carter in order to kind of settle him down, or how far is Carter going to take this? So really, really great subplot here developing going forward in this season. I'm really looking forward to it, honestly. So yeah, personal vendetta now a little bit for Carter to find out who is responsible for his sister's missing. And I don't think he suspects that she's dead. I really don't think that he even has grasped that idea. He just thinks that she's missing. And obviously she's been dead for a little bit, right? So at the very end of the episode, we see Mackenzie, and she says, with Darius and Harris, and she says, all we can do now is prepare. Darius says, for what? She says, war, right? So between Bennett's army and theirs, it is going to be a war as he's trying to take back the White House now from Mackenzie. So should be interesting, setting up some really great subplots, as I said, for the rest of the season. Alright, so my rating for this episode, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. I think last episode I gave it a 4 or a 4.1 or something like that. I was disappointed by last week's episode, but like I said at the beginning of this one, I really liked this episode, and I felt like it really redeemed the kind of loss of kind of a reputation that I at least had for the show in last episode. So a way better episode than last week. Like I said, some great side stories developed. You got the detective, you got Joe Riggs. I didn't talk about that in the recap, but Jillian finds out that Joe Riggs is a real guy and he's still alive. So this guy in the bunker, that was not his real name. His real name was not Joe Riggs. So that's a very interesting development too. I didn't think it was too necessary for the recap, so or at least not yet, right? Like it could turn into something big going forward in the season. And then you have Bennett. So you have like 3 subplots here going on. Meanwhile, they're trying to defeat this asteroid that's going to kill them in like 100 days, right? That's going to wipe them out. So very interesting season going forward here. Some really great ideas. I feel like season 1, it was like just one subplot in the asteroid at one time. But now it's like, you know, you got 4 different storylines, big storylines going on at once. So it's really good here. I thought it was some great performances again by the cast this episode. Really good job. Santiago Cabrera killed it again. You know, Darius is a really likable guy so far this season. Really great. So yeah, great redeeming episode after last week's disappointment, like I said. And really, one of the only scenes that I really disliked was the Jillian scene where this guy from like her grade 10 high school class or something comes and delivers a package, and he's like, we should grab a drink sometime. Like, that was just a really awkward scene. If that wasn't in the episode, I mean, you know, maybe it's like one of the best in the series. No, I'm not saying a scene defines an episode or anything. I don't know, I just really didn't like that scene. Like, I really just wanted to turn away from the screen when that scene came on. Like, it was just really kind of awkward and cringe worthy a little bit. Like, anyways, so the whole part with Jillian, I just really don't like her character, to be honest. But I really do like her new role with being the vice president's assistant. I feel like it gives her something to do and makes the character a little bit more dynamic, right? So then my favorite character for this episode, speaking of characters, is Liam Cole, played by Charlie Rowe. Charlie Rowe's doing a great job. He did a great job season 1, I thought. Liam, such a kind of a quirky, funny character, but also very intelligent, right? So he kind of has an inner battle this week with deciding on, is he gonna tell them about the Iron Core, or is he gonna keep it in? Has to, you know, kind of battle against Resist and Croft at the same time. So he's in a really tough position right now, and I think he handles it pretty well in this episode. So some really great stuff there from Liam Cole as a character, and Charlie Rowe giving a great performance in this episode, as well as the rest of the season, I have no doubt. So anyways, guys, that'll just about do it for the review of Salvation Season 2, Episode 2. Thank you so much for watching this review, and thank you so much for the recent support on the channel. I really do appreciate it. So I'm going to stick with it for, you know, the next few weeks. Should have reviews up for it, usually Tuesday or Wednesday, because this is now a Monday night show. And yeah, so please keep tuned to the channel for reviews each week of Salvation. And with that, I will see you next week for Salvation Season 2, Episode 3.
Soles of my shoes are worn, the knees of my jeans are torn.